Alright, let me check. No, it should be streaming on those channels. Uh, um, yeah. Shoot, I forgot to do one thing. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I gotta procrastinate about something. What is it? Now we're gonna close this down. Don't save. And what we're gonna do? I've been having gripes with YouTube, and that's kind of why I've been offset. And I have a lot of things happening in my life that's causing a few little delays of certain things and panics and everything else. So what we're gonna do? Let me get the mic up. Here's the mic. Um, I gotta get a new mic. Oh, actually, I do have a new mic. I just gotta get a new audio setup. So what we're gonna do is I am gonna play a song. If I can find my songs. I'm not going to do a video because the video has been just fracking annoying me. I am going to play a song. Yeah, I played a song "Don't Stop the Sandman," and it got copyright, not strike, but a copyright notification due to the um what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? The beat of the music to "Don't Stop Believin'," and so parody laws apparently don't exist, and that is just annoying. So freaking annoying. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do. Oh yeah, and this is another one. Matters, a company, I don't know who they are. They're trying to claim a couple of songs by um, Tom McDonald, and I said, hey, this is the Tom McDonald song, privately owned and everything. It's not owned by Matters. I challenged a couple of the copyrights, and one of them came up as, oh yeah, we're going to not dispute this claim, and the second one came up, oh yeah, we're going to dispute the crap out of this. So, in honor of, yeah, let's do that. Not Wake the White Wolf. I was gonna say, in honor of this game that comes out tomorrow, that has a lot of conflict and a lot of issues, and we're going to talk about it. Um, I am going to play one of those songs because what I forgot to do is go to the bathroom. But I gotta find the song. Where is that song? Where is that song? Where is that song? Plowing a troll would be perfect. But that's not what I'm looking for. Age of the Dragon. Where is it at? It's one of the earlier songs. Voice of New Age. Not Wake the White Wolf. Oh, come on. It's by Miracle of Sound. Again, he's a fan of video games and he's a fan of Dragon Age. Here it is, The Age of the Dragon. So this is a song called Age of the Dragon. Actually, did this? Was there a video for this? Let's play the video instead. Let me find the video. And then we're gonna later on we're gonna end it with we're gonna end the video with a Miracle of Sound, please, with one of the songs by videos. I think there was a video for this by Harris. Yeah, so there is a video. So this is the Dragon Age song, Age of the Dragon. Ooh. All as One, Miracle Sound, Dragon Age Inquisition, Symphonic Metal. We're going to do that one instead. We're probably going to play both of these. Nope. Okay, let's get it past these commercials. I'm going to start the video here, and then we're going to see skip. All right, so Miracle Sound has done several things with. I think this is it. Done. Expand. See. Show me the screen capture. So he's done several collaborations with BioWare. Did one for Mass Effect 3 when it came out. And so this is called Dragon Age Inquisition Age All as One. Yeah, we're going to play that. I'll be back too.
From the ashes, lost enigmas in the dust. I cannot remember, though they tell me that I must. Sky is torn asunder, fear that breaks the brave will not drag me under, climb out of the grave. Make a sign or faults divine, this mark of worth I wear. Faithful scars I bear. Stand side by side, carry all as one. We can bear this weight. Stand side by side, we won't come undone. For the hands that will carry us home are touched by fate.
right. That is actually quite awesome. I think he does a really good job on that one. But we are going to do something special today. With Miracle of Sound here, and that is we are going to play. Well, eventually we're going to play the other song too. That's going to be the. Yeah, we're going to play both songs eventually. So the Dragon Age was a big part of my BioWare. Okay, let's do BioWare in general. Actually, this fate. I played Jade Empire. Didn't realize it was a BioWare game, and I played the crap out of it. I loved it. I played all three at the time, all three fighting types, and if you buy the expansion, if you buy it for the PC, or if you bought the expansion pre-order, you got an extra character to play. So I played it all the way through, and that was also one of the first games I played that had both male and female and male. I don't know if there was a male, but I know there was a female relationship in the game, and I didn't have any problem with it. I have no problem with it now. When I got divorced, and I was in kind of depression era because I never expected to get divorced, let alone twice. First time was more of an annulment, and second time was just I don't know. Anyway, the what's the word? So when I got divorced, I got introduced um to Mass Effect at first, and then I got introduced to um, Dragon Age shortly after that. I was like, hey, what other games have this company created? Being BioWare, and sure enough, that you would have Dragon Age and Dragon Age 1 and 2. Dragon Age 1 I bought for $20. Origins and Awakenings, all the DLC content, all the stuff, all one package deal. Dragon Age 2 just came out. Well, actually, I think it's only been out for a year. When did it come out? When did Dragon Age come out? 2, that is. Let's see, Dragon Age 2 came out in 2011. So yeah, it did come out. It came out the year that I got divorced. I got divorced in the beginning of 2011. And I played I didn't like it as much as I did like Dragon Age 1. I did like that your choices in Dragon Age 1 affected Dragon Age 2 a little bit, but not a whole lot. And I liked how other characters from Dragon Age 1 appeared and how they appeared in Dragon Age 2 based upon your choices, being who's going to be the king, who's the queen, whether or not Alistair becomes a drunk, because of the choices. I loved the character models, and that was one thing about Dragon Age 2 I loved was the character designs, the character models, and the maps and everything. It was just okay. The maps weren't great because they were just repetitive all the time, but I still played both male, female fighters, male, females, rogues, male, females, wizards, and to be honest, the wizards and the rogues were non-bow rogues, the dual weapon rogue, was my favorite in that series. But it again because you didn't have the choices of the races you get to play. That was the only thing I didn't quite like about the game. And I usually end up making the same choices. And that was fine. I really enjoyed it. The game was phenomenal in that sense. Now we come to Dragon Age Inquisition. Inquisition itself was was likable. I mean, there's the models I kind of didn't quite like. I know they had to update the models based on the new game engine they were using. That wasn't the same engine that they use in Dragon Age 2, and so things were kind of a bit off. I love the Canary. That was my favorite race to play, both not male version, but the female version. Male elves and humans are the ones I played there. I didn't play. I did play a female dwarf in the game. Excuse me, my nose starting to twitch. And so yeah, that was the. It was a fun game. Let's see, my friend just sent me a message. Country to save. Classically Chloe and I did love it. Oh, it must be a song. Okay. So yeah. So Inquisition, I really enjoyed. I thought the game itself was written fairly well. I loved the open world aspects of the game and enjoyed the how again the effects of what you picked in 1 and 2 now affects 3 Inquisition. May not be major ones, but they were there. And Morgan between 1 and 3 looked almost exactly the same. She was a very stunning model in the first game, even though you have to figure from the time that it came out, 2009. But when they carried it forward, they made Morgan. They made her look, even when she wasn't wearing her iconic outfit that she wore in the first one, it was still Morgan. You could tell who it was, and it was great. I didn't realize at the time that Claudia Black did the voice of Morgan. And I'm like, wow, I love Claudia Black. I think she's awesome. Loved her in the in oh, I'm gonna hate myself for this one. The Jim Henson sci-fi. Oh, how am I hate myself? I've been having that problem. I've been having issues with memory. It's kind of annoying. Pitch Black. I loved her in Pitch Black. Obviously, that was a given. Stargate. Oh no, she was in Stargate. Who was I thinking? Oh no, I'm thinking of Gigi Eggley. No, and yeah, but in Stargate, I liked her in Stargate. Playing the enforcers. Peacekeeper enforcer. Yeah, Farscape. She played the Peacekeeper War Enforcer in Farscape, and that's what I was thinking of. But she was also made. Yeah, Farscape is what I was thinking. That's a Jim Henson show, and then she also made an appearance as a strong female in the final seasons of um, God, you're gonna hate me for this. Stargate. Yeah. So yeah, and so when I found out that she did the voice of Morgan, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Morgan is great. How can you go wrong with Morgan? Easy. You let someone who doesn't like the series. I come on. Really, I kind of believe that the people who made Dragon Age, Veilguard, and I admit I am going to play it tomorrow after work because I play it during work. They'll yell at me. um, I believe that the Veilguard wasn't created for people who really love Dragon Age, but more of people who using Dragon Age as a platform. Because reading the reviews, there's reviews on the modeling, there's reviews on some of the gameplay. Very few reviews talking about how great the storyline is. I mean, there is a reviewer that said that as playing Rook, the dialogue options are good guy, jokey good guy, or mildly angry good guy. They didn't. That was the one thing about Mass Effect and about the original Dragon Ages that made it kind of good, is that if you wanted to play an asshole character, you could play an asshole character. And the dialogue with the companions, the dialogue and how the story goes, all reflects upon that nature. That was the Paragon and Renegade nature that was in Mass Effect, and they kind of carried it over when they made Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 1 didn't quite have it as it because the story because the game had different game engine, different sequences and gameplay, but it still kind of had that kind of options. But in Dragon Age 2 and 3, they had those options also, and so it was obvious to pick. It was obvious that what you're going to do. And as someone pointed out, Dragon Age Veilguard is all about, well, we don't want people to be angry or upset or hurt, or we want them to feel safe. So the dialogue is muted as a result of it. Now, I'm going this based upon some people who've had several hours of playthrough, and so I'm going to be dealing with that myself, and I'm going to talk on that when I play it and see what is avoidable, what's not. Now, as for the things that kind of frustrate me, where is the gender ideology stuff. I've not been a fan of it, of gender and sexual ideology. I understand that people have their own personal point of views. I have some people that understand that they are kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Anyway, everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own wants and needs and their own agenda, I guess, in some ways. In the case of Dragon Age Veilguard, it's an agenda that's being pushed. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I'm talking about is the fact that one person who did a review said that you have to. He loves the fact that they are. I don't know if it's a he or the or they. That they're adding it to the game to make it more into a modernized audience and feel, and that we are that people are going to have to accept it. Well, there were several things that people said that they're going to have to accept over the years, and several of those things were bad, and several of those things were good. Several of those things were just horrible. I mean, like the idea of like certain religions. I'm not going to say which one specifically because, well, people could do a well. Whataboutism said you have to accept it. If not, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of your hedonistic stature, or whatever. I won't put it that way. So there's that, and so yeah. So as a result of that, I always think it would have been if I was in the designing team, and I would, of course, well, if I wasn't in the designing team, and they say, well, what kind of issues do you have with the game? And they go, well, and I tell them, well, this is the issue I have with the game. They would have fired me on the spot for being transphobic, a bigot, a racist. Where my where I would my idea, and this is a result of Starfield, by the way, um, where they didn't leave the options for people to make their own choices into how they want their game environment to be. So where I'm going with this is sort of like the pronoun thing in Starfield. Um, when a person in Nexus Mods created a mod that removed the pronoun option and removed the pronoun dialogue from the game, that account got banned. Not just banned, but not 30-day ban, not a 15-day ban, but an outright ban for life. And the mod was completely deleted and removed. And I mean, if you already downloaded it and you try to apply it using the Nexus launcher, it wouldn't do it. It wouldn't let you do it. They really, made it, that if you remove pronouns from the game, you're considered a bigot. or transphobe or whatever you want to fix the phobia there in the thing. So my idea would have been if to order affect the game environment to cater to the user that is playing the game so they could play the game in the way they wish to, not in the way that the developers wish them to play it or force them to play it, or if they say, you know, in the case of Harry Potter, you buy Harry Potter, you buy Harry Potter, you're a turf, which you when if anybody's played the game, it is nothing like what they said it is. There are trans characters in the game, trans NPC characters in the game, and I think you can add a female voice to your male characters or vice versa. So yeah, and I have no problem with that because it's an option you can pick. It's an option that you can decide. So my idea was if you didn't wish to have the dialogues or the interactions or with the idea of having pronouns and gender ideology, um, being picking between he, she, no, sorry, he, him, she, her, they, them, and male, female, non-binary. If you don't, I mean, that was it. With Cyberpunk 2077, it had those ideals features, but it didn't have pronouns. So if you wanted to make a female with a Johnson, you can do it. It wasn't no one really complained in a way to attack the game or to attack the developers, or at least if it was very minor, so minor that it didn't even hit my feeds, my Twitter feeds, my YouTube feeds. It wasn't a big thing. No one really cared. Um, but when you so far put it into the game that your romance options are greatly reduced just because you decide to pick he, him, she, her, male, female. That if you pick non-binary, you could romance pretty much everybody in the game, including the ones that wouldn't romance a male or a female. So I'm going to do screenshots. I'm going to take some notes tomorrow, and then tomorrow night's stream, I will go over my issues, my complaints, my problems, and what I like about the game, what I hate about the game. It's all that's going to be in my in the discussion tomorrow, unless I procrastinate and go to do it on Friday instead. Speaking of which, yeah, I procrastinated over the weeks due to how do I put it? Okay, I gotta check something out while I'm thinking about it. I procrastinated over the week due to I'm trying to work out some issues that I'm having. There we go. YouTube. Let's play this and see what's going on. Oh, good. I got muted. At least chat works. All right. Yeah. So what's happening is I'm moving. I've got a place, sort of. The individual is kind of sketchy, and so I'm hoping that is true. That this is a really good thing. The guy. I mean, what it comes down to it seems like the person bought something, ran into an issue, um, was going to rent it. It looks like that he was going to rent it to the college guys. He was going to rent it to individuals who live in the various areas, and he pretty much wants somebody who can help take care of the place. Because the idea was he originally bought it um, for his wife. I mean, it was a present for his wife. I would love to have a $500,000 house present to me. But I guess, but his wife was, according to the story that he's presented to me, his wife was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and so instead of sitting on paying the mortgage and all that, his wife has moved. They moved to a different state where her family is, and she wanted to be closer to her family while she's going through this treatment, and instead be the furthest from her family. And it's a good story, but it's also screaming scam too, because I know where he says that they're going to be at, but he's also stating that according to the phone number comes from Texas. And I did a search, and there's a lot of scams running out of Texas, at least in that people from those area code numbers. So I'm praying that this is not a scam. I really am, because this is good for me, good for my son, good for my new work. The house is literally on a bad drive, between 4 and 10 minute drive one way, and it's better than what I do now. I mean, when I work up north where I live, I live in the middle of Western Washington, and it's an hour and a half, hour to 2 hour drive one way to my previous employer that I've been working at off and on for the past almost 23 years. Yeah, 20. No, let's see, 27 years. Jeez, I'm old. So yeah, I mean that's no, yeah. Oh, jeez, frack, I'm old. So yeah, so this is my second time working as a salary job position. Um, and it's renting this place would be phenomenal. Even when I go unemployed, I can afford the rent. So that is what I'm looking at right now. That's what I am trying to figure out. What the if it's real. I mean. Anyway, all right. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to put forth money to a secure deposit. He says that because he's out of state, he'll be sending me the keys so I can come down and inspect the place later on. And to give him some information, what the current condition of it is, if there's things that need to be fixed, is there he's going to fumigate it, get it all prepped prior to moving in, but he needs to know what the condition of it, since he's not using a rental company to monitor and take care of the place. This is all directly to him. He needs to know some things so he could hire the people to come down and make the fixes and such, so that when I move in, it's in good condition. It is ready, livable and fumigated and safe, not just for me, but for my son and for any person after me. And it looks like, yeah, he wants somebody to caretake the place versus actual just live there. Because, I think the plan is when his wife gets better, the cancer is removed and she's doing well, that he's going to move back out here where the intentional thing was supposed to happen. I think he was intended here to move here because of work, whether he worked for Intel or work for HP or work for somebody specific, but I think that's what the intended was. And things happened, things went wrong. So, as life does, life throws little curveballs and little changes. Like, I found out what was helped me have bad sleeps, and so I kind of fixed that, and I've been having great sleeps the past couple of nights. Even when, as old persons go, I wake up in the middle of the night, but I'm able to go back to sleep, so it's awesome. Oh yeah, I did a thing. Last weekend I worked a convention, worked Washington State HorrorCon. that's another reason why I kind of, when I got back from the con, I didn't want to stream because I was too tired and just awful feel. So I worked and assisted Christy Swanson, and I also got to talk with Sandy Johnson. I kind of wish, and I also got to talk to Lance Henderson. I wish I'd, got the nerve to go over and talk to Patricia Velasquez, but she was 2 booths over, and I didn't want to leave my booth, especially when they're working. When my job is to assist. Only a couple times I left without assistance, but I had someone cover me while I was trying to do it because I was trying to talk to like Lance Hendrickson. I wanted to get a picture signed by him. I also wanted to visit Adrian Barbeau when I get a chance, and Michael Ironside. I did get a chance to get down there and talk to them. But that's just the way things go. That's how it works out. I mean, what can you do? Let's see. But yeah, if you get a chance, meet Christy Swanson. Do it. She's awesome. I highly recommend it. All right, so I'm going to, let's see, I've been talking for 37 minutes. How long is this video? Ooh, it's a 25-minute video. So, Good Bad Flicks just put out Exploring Clock Tower Rewind, the history and revival of survival horror classics. What happened is So, hopefully in doing this, I don't have any, it's kind of strange. When I play the Exploring series, I don't get copyright strikes against me, but when I play the other ones, I get copyright notices against me. So we are going to, this was recently released, like about 3 days ago, by Good Bad Flicks. It's, again, the history and the revival of survival horror classics. I think these are about video games, to be exact. So here we go.
Japanese video game director Hifumi Kono loves horror movies. He discovered them during his years in college. Major classics like The Exorcist, The Omen, and Suspiria were amongst his favorites.
I haven't seen Suspiria.
In the early 90s, he got a job working for the video game company Human Entertainment. Human Entertainment was largely focused on one thing: developing sports games. Games like Stadium Events and Super Soccer. As such, the first game Kono directed was Human Grand Prix 2 for the Super Famicom. While the company did have an occasional non-sports title like Kamen Rider Black for the NES, the vast majority of their titles were sports-related. Kono felt stifled by the insistence to make sports games and wanted to branch out to make something different. He wanted to bring his love of horror to video games.
Now, my son would not have objected. He's a big sport. There's 2 video games that he likes to play. One, sports. The other one is game shows.
At the time, horror games were few and far between, especially in Japan. The 2 standouts were Sweet Home and Splatterhouse. After a lot of convincing, he worked with members of the planning division at Human, who negotiated with upper management to let them work on an original, non-sports title. This was a little easier now, since Human had a few successful ones. In 1993, they released Septentrion, and in 1994, they released The Fireman. The executives decided to hold a competition where anyone in the company could participate. They had to present a game design, and the one that they liked the most would go into production. Kono presented his ideas for a horror game unlike any other, Clock Tower, which obviously was the game the studio chose to put into production. The game takes massive inspiration from the 1985 Dario Argento film Phenomena. The game's story focuses on a group of orphans who are adopted by a rich, eccentric family, the Barrows. They all live in this giant mansion in the middle of nowhere. The protagonist is Jennifer, one of the orphans who moves into the house.
Okay, pause for a second. Female protagonist. That's all I gotta say.
The protagonist is Jennifer, one of the orphans who moves into the house. As Jennifer explores the property, strange things begin to happen, all of which culminates in the arrival of the Scissor Man, a demon-like figure wielding a gigantic pair of scissors as his murder weapon. His in-game name was Bobby. While the character of Bobby was largely influenced by Phenomena, The giant scissors were inspired by Cropsey from the 1981 film The Burning. Playing as Jennifer, you need to solve the mystery of the house and survive the night. There are 9 endings, but only one true ending. The lead character in Clock Tower, Jennifer, is based on Jennifer Connelly's character in Phenomena, Jennifer Corvino. The game shared many ideas from Argento's films beyond Phenomena, things like bizarre ties to the occult and young women in peril. The director wanted the game to feel like you were playing a horror movie. The motion capture model for Jennifer was Yasuko Terada, who was a game director on other titles from Human Entertainment. They photographed her movements, imported it into the computer, and digitized it into pixel art,
Nice.
a technique that was in vogue at the time. This gave Jennifer's movements a fluidity of motion. Kono said Terada did a wonderful job of doing movements like hanging from a projection above the entrance to the roof terrace and stumbling in the hallway. As far as the game mechanics, they made Clock Tower as a point-and-click adventure. Since this was going to be released on the Super Famicom, they needed to find a way to make it work well with the joypad. To simplify this, they made it so that when you moved the D-pad, there were hotspots to click on. For normal movements, you'd click on an area you wanted Jennifer to go to. However, when Jennifer was in danger, you could use the L and R buttons as a panic mode to get her to run in that direction. Although in keeping with the horror theme, you have limited stamina, and running will deplete it, so you have to be careful. Kono looked further into what fascinated him about films like Suspiria and Phenomena. What he came up with was the suspense of being chased and the thrill of hiding from the killer while holding your breath. Neither of these aspects existed in video games at the time. The director said, "One of the fundamental concepts of the project was not simply to add a horror theme to the game design, but rather to apply horror films to the game system itself. In horror films, it would be strange to see the heroine running indefinitely. At some point, she'll run out of breath and be unable to run, and you feel a sense of crisis as she risks being trapped. So the game mechanics came about by trying to make the game seem real. Jennifer wasn't a superhero. She was a scared 14-year-old girl. So she moves slowly, gets scared easily, and it takes her what feels like ages to get to safety. Running and hiding is your only option." Kono said this was the biggest element that would make the game scary. At the time, there was a mouse add-on for the Super Famicom. However, the install base for the console mouse was very low, and so they would have had to make 2 separate control systems, one for the standard controller and one for the mouse. From a business perspective, it wasn't economically feasible to do this. They would have needed a larger team and more money, 2 things they weren't going to get. Clock Tower was an experimental game with a very small dev team, and as such, the budget and support for the game was minimal. The initial concept was too large for their budget, so they had to cut down the size of the map because they didn't have the resources to make it. The bosses at Human had their doubts about the game's concept. Jennifer couldn't fight back against the Scissor Man. Her only defense was to run and hide. The director stated, "People around me said that a game where the protagonist runs away from the enemy would not work. Under normal circumstances, the executives may have tried to implement some changes into the game. However, something was going on at Human that ended up being beneficial to Clock Tower being made with little outside tampering. At the time, most of the company was focused on its flagship wrestling series, Fire Pro Wrestling. While most titles at Human had a small dev team of less than 10 people, Fire Pro had somewhere between 20 to 30 people working on it. As such, Kono and his team were able to stay focused on the game they wanted to make since the bosses were preoccupied with the larger game. The team working on Clock Tower was about 7 people. Although there was one team member who was constantly complaining about how the game was boring. Clock Tower was released on September 14th, 1995, exclusively in Japan. It was a surprise hit for Human Entertainment. The employee who claimed the game was boring changed his tune when the game was a hit. He now proudly proclaimed, "I worked on this." The Japanese video game magazine Famitsu gave Clock Tower a 31 out of 40. The game sold very well, which surprised the publisher and led to them greenlighting another horror title, Twilight Syndrome, which was released in 1996. They also made another horror game, Mizurna Falls, which was released exclusively in Japan in 1998. With the success of Clock Tower, Human Entertainment wanted a sequel. Initially, Kono wasn't interested. However, he changed his mind once he saw the technical possibilities of the next-generation consoles. There were limitations within the Super Famicom, but the hardware in the Sony PlayStation opened up a new world of possibilities. This sequel to Clock Tower was one of the first games developed by Human Entertainment to utilize a 3D graphics engine, something that was still very new at the time. The original Resident Evil was announced while they were working on the game, and the team challenged themselves to create high-quality graphics to compete with that title. On December 13, 1996, they released Clock Tower 2 for the PS1 exclusively in Japan, which was a sequel to Clock Tower on the Super Famicom. This was an entirely new game with a new story and polygon graphics instead of pixels. Although they did keep the point-and-click style of gameplay, which was seen as integral to the game's design, kind of like how the original Resident Evil is tied to tank controls. Seeing the demand for horror games, Human decided to take the series beyond Japan. The PS1 version of Clock Tower 2 was released in North America roughly 10 months later on October 10, 1997. But since it was the first game in the series to be made available outside of Japan, it was simply called Clock Tower for Western audiences. The point-and-click controls baffled some American console gamers who weren't used to this outside of PC adventure games. To make things slightly more confusing, Clock Tower: The First Fear, an enhanced port of the Super Famicom game, was released for the PlayStation on July 17, 1997 in Japan. Both the original Clock Tower and The First Fear never had an official release outside of Japan, so audiences elsewhere thought Clock Tower for the PS1 was the first entry in the series. The game sold well enough that Human wanted another sequel. Although Kono wasn't involved in this one, Yutaka Harada took over as the game director. March 12, 1988, Clock Tower Ghost Head was released in Japan, and then November 3, 1999, it was released in the US under the name Clock Tower 2: The Struggle Within. After Clock Tower 2 was released, Kono was in the process of returning to the franchise. He had concepts for the next game in the franchise. His vision would be for the game to sidestep Ghost Head and go back to the original two. The game would revolve around doors found in urban areas with multiple cities that would lead into a world of Scissorman. Jennifer and her daughter would be the protagonists. However, that didn't happen. Human Entertainment was having some financial problems, and the game was canceled. Then Human Entertainment went bankrupt, and they officially went out of business in 2000. Sunsoft, the video game division of the electronics manufacturer Sun Corporation, acquired the Clock Tower license in 2001. Sunsoft partnered with Capcom to make Clock Tower 3, although it was technically the fourth Clock Tower game. This was a standalone title with a new cast that was intended to be a series reboot. The game was much different from the previous entries, although it did seem to be borrowing a little bit from Kono's game design. They got rid of the point-and-click gameplay, and it was much more focused on action than previous titles. Scissorman was present, but also Scissor Woman, and a variety of other killers. Kinji Fukasaku, the director of the now classic movie Battle Royale, directed the cutscenes for the game. Clock Tower 3 for the PS2 was released on December 12, 2002 in Japan, and March 18, 2003 in the US. It did not sell well. Fans of the previous Clock Tower games didn't like the shift towards action and the complete change in the gameplay. Although, ironically, the game scored a 33 out of 40 on Famitsu, which was 2 points higher than the original Clock Tower in 1995. After Human Entertainment's bankruptcy, Hifumi Kono went on to start his own company, Nude Maker. Nude Maker created some unique games, from Steel Battalion in 2002 to Infinite Space in 2009. Kono was asked how to make games that appeal to a worldwide audience. He said, "How much should you adapt your work to the market, whether it's the domestic market or the overseas market? If you ignore that question altogether and just create what you think is fun, you'll find at least some measure of success." This was the case for me with Clock Tower and Steel Battalion. So sticking to your own ideas in the face of market expectations can result in good games. Thanks to some
Pause for a second. I'm going to go back here just a second. I'm going to show you the Steel Battalion one. This was...
created some unique games from Steel.
So look at this. That is the controller for Steel Battalion. That is what was a great selling point in this game. And you had foot pedal controls. You had two different joystick controls. The throttle piece here. Each individual button had a different command and structure. I mean, it was a phenomenal style setup. There was a guy who actually redid this. You can find there was a big giant Steel Battalion setup that was this guy designed, and yeah, I don't know where the game went after that.
Result in good games. Thanks to some dedicated fans of the original Clock Tower, they were able to do a full translation of the game and made it available as a downloadable ROM so that English-speaking audiences could finally enjoy this groundbreaking title. However, again, it was never officially translated from Japanese into English or any other language. In 2005, there was the Clock Tower spiritual sequel called Haunting Ground, which was also released by Capcom. Haunting Ground was called Demento in Japan. Most of the dev team from Clock Tower 3 worked on Haunting Ground. The original script for Haunting Ground was written by Clock Tower 3's Noboru Sugimura. It was an edited version of a rejected Resident Evil 4 script.
Wow.
The script, when it was still Resident Evil 4, was about Leon Kennedy investigating Umbrella's headquarters. There was a subplot about a girl waking up in a mansion and befriending a dog. They removed this subplot and evolved it into what would become Haunting Ground. The game was a modest success, but underperformed, possibly due to it being released so soon after the blockbuster Resident Evil 4. Even though the game wasn't a hit, there was a lot of love put into it by the developers, and the game has a dedicated fanbase. Seeing as how there was still a demand for Clock Tower-style games, Hifumi Kono spoke to an unnamed publisher about doing a reboot or a re-release of Clock Tower, but they didn't agree to it because they said horror games are difficult to market. Frustrated with this news and the direction of the Clock Tower series, Kono took to Kickstarter to crowdfund a proper sequel. Since he didn't own the Clock Tower name, he would have to call it something else and make it similar but different. Wanting to do a redesign of the Scissor Man, he hired Masahiro Ito, the creature designer for Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3. Ito came up with a new villain, this Scissor Walker. Kono said, "This game is not the type where you encounter a myriad of monsters, but a story centered around the Scissor Walker. As such, it was important for us to come up with a design for the Scissor Walker that would be compelling to our fans. The first person that came to mind that had the capability to respond to such a request was Mr. Ito. The only thing I asked of him before he began designing was to forget about Clock Tower and do whatever he likes. But Mr. Ito designed the Scissor Walker in such a way that Clock Tower fans would enjoy it as well." Wanting to bring in even more horror cred, Kono collaborated with Takashi Shimizu, the director of Ju-On the Curse 1 and 2, Ju-On the Grudge 1 and 2, and other disturbing J-horror films. The end result was Nightcry, which was released in March of 2016. Shimizu made a short film that was a companion to the game. While Nightcry was channeling much of Clock Tower, the game it was based on, some considered it a flawed experience. Although the game does have its fans, negative reviews lamented how antiquated it felt compared to modern titles. Meanwhile, fans of the game rejoiced at how unapologetically old school it was, feeling very much like a new Clock Tower installment. Being that it was so divisive, it was seen as a niche title, and it was not the hit the director was hoping for. That seemed like it might be the last Clock Tower game, even as a spin-off. Although, much like the Scissor Man, you can never count this series as dead. 6 years later, in 2022, independent game studio Way Forward had just released River City Girls Zero, an enhanced port of Shin Niketsu Koha Kanaitachi no Banka, which never made it to the US. The game was only ever officially released on the Super Famicom in Japan. The game was a huge success, and they realized there was an appetite for this style of remake. Unofficially, Way Forward called this type of release a Port Plus, since it wasn't a remake or a remaster, but a classic game enhanced with extra content. They put together a list of games they wanted to enhance next, and landed on Clock Tower. The goal with Port Plus was to take a game that had not officially been released in the US and Europe, but has fans in those regions that are aware of it and want to play the game. That's the magic formula and the reason why they chose to do Clock Tower as their second Port Plus project. Although the original Clock Tower was never released in the US, thanks to the internet, many fans over here already knew about it. Before WayForward was able to do anything, they had to make sure they could acquire the rights to the game. They contacted the current co-owners of the franchise, Sunsoft, to try to get collaboration approval. Sunsoft was very interested in the idea, possibly because in 2021 they put out a tweet mentioning how they'd like to remake some of their retro titles in the near future and were asking for suggestions. One of the biggest responses was for the original Clock Tower. Sunsoft was interested right out of the gate. The hardest part of the whole ordeal was all the legal stuff and hammering out a deal, which took several months. Once they got the official approval, production began around mid-2023. They wanted to make sure and have the original creator on hand to help with the project, and were lucky to collaborate with Hifumi Kono.
Good.
They brainstormed names for the game, but decided the best was Clock Tower Rewind. That was the one that stuck with the team the most. The game was announced in July of 2023. Shortly after that, once they went into production, they contacted Kono. He was unaware of the port at the time, but was more than happy to come on board to assist. Kono-san gave them his feedback and guidance, in addition to his blessing to work on the port. Beyond that, he sat down for an interview, which they recorded as a bonus feature for the game. The creative lead for the Port Plus of the game, Mariel Cartwright, was a big Giallo fan. She was most excited about working on Clock Tower since it took direct inspiration from Dario Argento's films. Beyond that, the whole team at WayForward loved horror games, as you can see by their track record. Games like Blood Rain Betrayal and Aliens Infestation. Clock Tower fits perfectly into the games they enjoy working on. The team for the port's relatively small. They have roughly 7 dedicated team members who worked with a variety of freelancers, artists, musicians, and voice actors. They stress that this will be sticking as close to the game's roots as possible. It's the original 16-bit game, with all the original graphics, sound, and gameplay, plus a bunch of bonus additions. They're releasing it with 2 modes. First, the original mode, which is a direct port of the original Super Famicom game, plus the second mode called Rewind, which has various gameplay adjustments and features backported from Clock Tower The First Fear, the PS1 port of the original. The main improvements in the Rewind mode are that the game is a bit easier to play. However, if you're a purist that wants to play the game it was originally conceived, there's that too. While Clock Tower did get a few unofficial fan translations over the years, the team went back to the original Japanese text and did a brand new translation, which stayed as close as possible to the original text. They did refer to the unofficial ones a few times to cross-check how fans commonly understood certain items or phrasings, for consistency's sake. However, when it came to the full translation, they started from scratch. For the game's engine, Carbon Team used their proprietary engine and tools to get classic games like Clock Tower ported to modern systems, as well as all the extra features and functionality. Nice. Things like saving anywhere and rewind to fix small mistakes that could lead to a game over. As a way to make the game a little more special, they wanted to create a new animated intro. The color design was by J.N. Weedle. The Studio Future Club assisted with the animation, backgrounds, and compositing, and Manuel Malahua assisted with the backgrounds. The animated sequences were directed by Mariel Cartwright. As another way to appeal to the horror game audience, they reached out to Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. The team were all huge Silent Hill fans, as well as her work on the series. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to hear her in another horror game. She agreed and did a new song for the intro. Later in the production, they decided to make an outro song too, so they contacted Emmy Evans. Nice. Her name came up from them loving her work on Nier, and as luck would have it, they had a connection from the team and had a fairly easy time getting her on board. Visually, the game is identical to the original Super Famicom version. The additional new extras for the game come in the form of things like the new intro, or them animating the original manga scans, only now with voiceovers, special effects, and music. While working on the project, they were able to get everything they set out to
you
put
can buy
into
the
it.
soundtrack for this
Since the
on,
rights
Steam.
discussion wasn't as difficult as they first imagined, they had additional time to include more extras than they originally planned. While making games is often filled with all sorts of unusual circumstances, the unusual thing here was how normal everything was. The team said it was an easy production. Everyone they reached out to was more than happy to be involved, which was great and almost unheard of. When they officially announced the port, they were overwhelmed by the reaction. They said it was incredibly positive, and that made the team very happy. They knew they made the right decision and wanted to make sure the game would not disappoint. The game is now finished and ready to be released to Western audiences.
Yep.
The
You can buy it
digital
on Steam
release
right
for
now.
the Americas and Europe is Tuesday, October 29th, just in time for Halloween. It's also getting a physical release from Limited Run Games, including a collector's edition. WayForward have other Port Plus titles in mind, but nothing that they can officially announce yet. They're in talks with several IP rights holders, so it looks like there will be more enhanced ports making their way here in the future. Might I suggest Deep Fear, Police Knots, and Sweet Home? Maybe another human title? Mizurna Falls? Clock Tower is seen as one of the most influential titles in Japanese horror games. Beyond that, it's considered one of the founding survival horror titles, along with Project Firestart in 1989 and Alone in the Dark in 1992. Here we are almost 30 years later, and its influence can still be felt. For example, there's an indie game coming soon called Midnight Special, which really looks like a glorious homage to Clock Tower. Beyond that, look at games like Amnesia, Alien Isolation, and Outlast, games that use the hide-and-seek gameplay that started all the way back with Clock Tower. Ifune Kono took his love of horror movies, combined it with his love of video games, and created a groundbreaking title that, as of currently, has 2 remasters, 3 sequels, and 2 spiritual sequels. There was almost a Clock Tower movie too, but that never happened for a variety of reasons.
Oh, they got it.
Clock Tower is an amazing, enduring horror franchise. It may not be as well known as Resident Evil or Silent Hill, but it has a rabid fan base all the same. Seeing all the passion put into the port of Clock Tower makes this all the more special. I love that this isn't just a port, but a complete overhaul that adds in new material for those who want it, but still has the original, untampered version for people who want that old school experience. This is the first time the game will officially be available outside of Japan. It's amazing that all these years later, we're getting a definitive re-release of the game that'll make it accessible to everyone, from fans of the series who weren't able to play it in the past, to the next generation of fans who will be playing it in the future.
It has over 107 positive reviews. Let's see where we're going back with this one. No, not you. You. There we go. All right. So yeah, that was the rebuild into the game. They actually did a good job of bringing it back. So what I'm going to do now is I've been dreading on this subject, waiting till last minute to decide what we're going to talk about or not, and I'm still not going to talk about it. Procrastination is a rough thing. It really is. I mean, I find it very difficult sometimes to achieve certain goals because I tend to look things like right now I got to start packing. It doesn't matter whether or not I'm going to move it into this house or not, whether it's true that I'm getting this place or not. I have to leave. I got to move out of this place no matter what, and I'm almost waiting until the very last second to decide on this one to see if this individual's true. And I briefly talked about it in the previous videos, but when I did talk about it, I forgot I had the mic muted, and as a result of it, you didn't hear anything. All right, so here we go. This is we're going to end the video here with another Dragon Age song. This is the Dragon Age of the Dragon song by Miracle of Sound. This was based off of Dragon Age 2. And tomorrow we'll talk about Dragon Age Veilguard. Hopefully I'm not going to be solely disappointed because the reviews, it's really interesting. As someone once pointed out, of the top 12 reviews, 9 of them pretty much almost said the exact same thing. And the other 2, which didn't have any ties to Sweet Baby Inc. or any of the LGBTQ plus whatever communities, were mid-range reviews. That's kind of why I bought it, is because of the mid-range reviews versus the ones that praised the crap out of it but didn't really talk anything about it. That's what made my decision, what maybe that finalized my decision. And there was one female reviewer that when she did the review, she did both talk about the pluses and minuses about the ones or in the video review, where other ones were immediately just praising the crap out of it and not really talk about anything, just just spewing blah all over it. Until the very end, and then it felt like she was a shill when she gave her recommendation. Like, if you're a Dragon Age fan, you would absolutely love this. And I'm learning that the ones who are Dragon Age fans are not really loving this. And when I saw also the managing director to the game give pretty much says that this is his dream, this is what he wanted, and that one of the quotes that he put in his message appears in every single review other than those last 2 that I was talking about, and the one video review from the female reviewer. I can't remember her name at the moment. So, excuse me. Let's end this on another Dragon Age song, a really good one too. Oh, would help if I unmute it.
Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Take a seat and I will recite you a tale of bold adventures spanning both sides of the veil. I knew a champion, we traveled far and wide. We saw so many wonders roving side by side. In the streets of Kirkwall we brought help to those in need. Word had spread so quickly of our dealings and our deeds. Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk. Into the deepest roads we ventured in the black. If we had only known what we were bringing back. We felt the fire of every temper, every mage, caught in the crossfire of their politics and rage. Had to pull some strings and get them off each other's backs. There was so much greater danger waiting to attack. Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk. a lonely refugee, your champion arrived. Round shores of Ferelden fade to Kirkwall's buzzing high. Rose above the poverty and rose above the pain. My friend became the savior of the white city of chains. Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this fight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk.
Oh yeah, no more spiders. That remind me, they took spiders out of the game. Okay, we'll talk about this tomorrow. Okay. All right, thanks for coming over. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope I entertained you in some way or another. We'll get back to procrastination tomorrow, because it's always one day away, and one day you could do it again. So be nice, be kind, and follow those little happy rainbows.